everybody, I'm back. I officially survived university exams for yet another semester. I was away from doing YouTube videos for over a month, and yes, that does of course mean I have absolutely loads of Big Finish audio dramas to catch up on. So in today's review, I'm going to be doing exactly that, and I'm going to be taking a look at arguably the most grand release of 2021 so far, and that is of course Masterful, as written by James Goss, the 50th anniversary special of the Master, celebrating the many different incarnations that we've had both on screen and within the audio drama format. This is a large, grand 3-hour story that is of course split across 3 discs, and it is available to be ordered now on the Big Finish website. Now this release is one that I have been very excited for, and I was really annoyed that it came out in January, because when I seen that it was coming out in January I knew that I would not be able to listen to it immediately because I was neck deep in exam revision at that point and stressing about doing coursework in the middle of my university kitchen, whilst feeding myself tea constantly to get through each day, day in, day out. But that is all over now, so I'm finally able to take a look at something much more positive. I am in fact going to stress immediately, because this review is going to be a little bit different to usual, because Masterful exists in 2 different formats. There is the standard version and the limited edition version. This review is going to be focused on the standard edition, meaning that I'm only going to be taking a look at the Masterful 3-hour story as written by James Goss. That is also available on the website singly for £25-ish on physical CD, and that is simply because this is the 50th anniversary special for the character. It is the one that people are most likely to buy, especially on physical CD, and that is because the limited edition version, which also features 2 singular short trips which are available to be purchased on the Big Finish website separately, as well as the 3-hour audiobook as written by Trevor Baxendale, which is Terror of the Master, featuring John Coleshaw basically playing the 3rd Doctor, the Brigadier and the Roger Delgado Master. That is an exclusive release to the Big Finish website. It's 85% sold out already, so chances are that is going to be gone soon. Of course you can still purchase it digitally, however I'm going to be doing a separate review of that in the future, basically covering all the things that you don't get on this release. I'm kind of separating it out to make it more accessible to take a look at the sole 50th anniversary special itself. So yes, this is one that I'm very, very excited by, but the main question is, does it live up to expectations? Is it exciting? And is Derek Jacoby as excellent as ever? Spoiler alert, of course he is. It's Derek Jacoby and he's brilliant. Here we go then, the 50th anniversary special of the Master, which is of course Masterful, as written by James Goss. Now James Goss has an absolutely massive job to do, because he needs to give adequate representation to all the different incarnations of the Master, while simultaneously creating a coherent narrative and a story that the listener can really get behind, and basically show off all the different incarnations of the Master and give them all something to do, because as it is mentioned within the behind the scenes, all these different incarnations of the Master have something different about their personality. Of course that is something that is very similar to multi-Doctor stories, because all the different incarnations of the Doctor are quite rightfully different. They are played by different people and they approach it in different ways. However, the different incarnations of the Master are different in other ways. Of course the character is generally evil and cunning and devious and manipulative. All the different incarnations have something about them that is completely stark opposite to all the different incarnations. Mcqueen, who is generally a bit more comedic and theatrical and out there and a little bit bizarre, and kind of along the same lines with that of the John Sim Master as well. He's also quite out there, excitable, and kind of a new lease of life. And then you have the polar opposite to that spectrum, which is of course the Derek Jacoby Master, who is more of the gentleman. And then you of course have Roger Delgado being the stereotypical James Bond-esque villain, and then you have everything in between that, from the decayed Crispy Master with Geoffrey Beevers, and of course the Alex Mcqueen Master in there as well, who is very manipulative, however again very excitable. And just to add in the mix as well, we have Milo Parker as a young variation of the Master from the very, very early years. So we have lots of different characters and all of them need something to do. But I can't lie, I was very, very worried for this release, because when Big Finish decide to approach something, especially on this scale, it can go one of 2 ways. It can either be alright, or incredible, or not very good at all, because I think that sometimes Big Finish can get very, very excited, and a little bit too excited, especially when tackling a 3-hour story the likes of this. For those of you that don't know, basically Masterful is split over 3 discs, so it is essentially in 3 parts. However, it is one big coherent story, so you can listen to it all together as one big narrative, and it is pretty much a big 3-hour blockbuster movie. If anything, the 3 discs are not 3 parts, they're kind of 3 chapters and one big grand story. It continues directly across from the opposite disc, so as a result it is one big grand scale adventure, and to be quite honest, I am pleasantly surprised at how well it holds together. I listened to this within one sitting, of course to get tea in between the different discs, but I went, got a cuppa, came back and then continued listening to it, and it didn't particularly feel like a big task. With The Legacy of Time, of course that was a little bit bigger. I think it was 6 hours long in total. They were all completely separate stories, so as a result you could kind of divide it up. I actually felt the need to kind of take a break from it every so often. I think I listened to it in kind of 2-episode chunks, but with this it does certainly immerse you within the action and it gets you involved within the plot. If anything, one of the things that I'm really surprised with when it comes to Masterful is how well it does come together, especially given that, as you will see on the Big Finish website, the cast list is basically the different incarnations of the Master and a number of supports in there as well. So when we say that this is a Master Anniversary Special, it is quite literally a Master Anniversary Special, because the bulk of the runtime is spent with these different incarnations together, with nobody else around them, aside from the odd few characters here and there. It is completely focused on this character and them interacting with each other. And as much as I can to go through the cast list and talk about the individual incarnations of the Master, we have Mark Gatiss as the Master from the Other Universe, also part of the Bernie Summerfield adventures within the Unbound. It is lovely to tie him in. He's a Master that I really do like. Of course, he's in Sympathy for the Devil with David Warner and Nicholas Courtney, a great story. And likewise, the Bernie Summerfield New Adventures. I love both of the box sets that he has appeared in throughout that, and he's a Master from another universe that has taken over his other universe. He is the Master and he loves it. He's the Master of that universe and everything within it. He has a lot of power, so as a result there's a little bit of romance going on throughout this box set as the Masters in our universe cause a little bit of havoc, and he pops in to see what is going on. Next up we have Derek Jacoby, which, yes, if you watch my Big Finish reviews you will of course know it's time for compliments, because Derek Jacoby is incredible. He's the War Master, and this box set showcases why he is my personal favourite, because as soon as he walks into the room you know that is Derek Jacoby, and he is the Master that has been through the Time War, and that definitely shows throughout this release, because he's much darker and cunning than all of the others, and there's something about him. He is a stereotypical English gent. He is there pouring wine and just being brilliant. He has style, and I'm jealous of his style, because he's so cool and collected, but you don't quite know what he is thinking, and as a result, as always, he is an absolute joy to listen to. Next up we have Alex Mcqueen, a Master that a lot of people really do like, and I can't really comment on because I've only listened to him within the monthly range. I've still not got round to listening to him as a part of Dark Eyes. I've heard lots of good things. He's very charismatic and theatrical and fun, and lots of psychotic kind of moments from what I understand, and to be honest, this release actually focuses quite a lot on this incarnation. He has lots of great moments, and again, much like Derek Jacoby, he actually stands out above the rest as being a very interesting incarnation that I look forward to hearing more of in the future, and hopefully Big Finish can get him on board for a number of releases. To be honest, I would like a box set with the Alex Mcqueen Master around the same line as the Missy series, the War Master, and the upcoming Eric Roberts series, because he's a very intriguing incarnation. Next up we have Milo Parker as the younger Master. Again, I was very intrigued by this, what route were they going to go down, and to be honest I think Milo Parker does a good job. He's kind of, I was worried that he was going to be like an annoying kid, annoying evil child, but he isn't. He generally settles in with all the other evil people in the room very nicely. If anything, he's kind of the calmer of the lot, but I think it's not the last of him. I think we'll definitely see more of him in the future. Next up we have the Eric Roberts Master from the 1996 TV movie, and he is of course dressed for the occasion, and again I don't quite know what to think. I must admit it is lovely the Big Finish have managed to finally get this incarnation of the Master. He's been in the Diary of River Song series a number of box sets ago. He's also been in Ravenous, and he is reunited with the 8th Doctor, which is lovely, but again this is the 3rd release he has been in now, and I'm a little bit unsure. It is lovely to have him back, and it's great to have him in the role, and I actually written in my notes, here's the Master she told you not to worry about, because that is the Master that I see here. Again, he's one that you just don't trust, but you can't help but like him because he's very romantic and he can just come into a situation and spruce it up a bit. He's one of those Masters that, yes, I'm looking forward to hearing more of. He's coming out in a box set, I do believe, in 2 months' time, maybe less than that, maybe it's even next month. So yes, I'm looking forward to see what Big Finish do within that box set, because that is going to be the moment. As at the minute, I'm not 100% sold. I want to see his own story with a 100% focus on his character, but yes, it is lovely to see him within this box set. And then we have John Sim as the Saxon Master. Lovely, again, to have him on Big Finish. Finally, I have some wonderful moments between him and the Derek Jacoby Master in particular. It's great to actually have some interaction between them, given that their incarnations are in such close proximity. They're kind of... The Derek Jacoby Master is the more polished version of the Sim Master, however he's a bit more charismatic and fun. He works quite well within the audio drama format, and he's just a bit of a maniac. Again, he's fun, and he definitely carries lots of scenes, which says a lot, given that the cast for this release is very strong indeed. We have Michelle Gomez as Missy. Again, Missy is unique because she's unlike any other incarnation, and I didn't mind her throughout this box set. Again, I want to see more of Missy. It is a very similar thing to that of Eric Roberts. I've not listened to the second Missy box set, I simply didn't have time when it came out, but I want to see a box set that has more control over the character and actually going in a direction with her, much like how we got to see with the Derek Jacoby Master. I want to see some events within her timeline. Ideally, I would love a box set that follows on immediately after she regenerates, coping with that first scene with her as the Master. I want to see more padding out of this incarnation, because I can't help but feel with what we got on screen within the 12th Doctor era was only half of the story. I want to see what else went on when the Doctor was absent, but I think throughout this release she was good, she was fun, she definitely delivered a lot of the funny lines and she works very well. Then we have John Culshaw, who basically is the catch-all because he plays Chameleon as well as the Anthony Ainley Master. And he does a good job as Chameleon, as always. He was, of course, in a 5th Doctor trilogy a while ago. Lots of fun, a great character. It's great to see the Big Finish are developing Chameleon a lot more than he could have ever had within the TV show. And yes, his Anthony Ainley impression is pretty alright. I didn't mind it. I wasn't 100% sold, but it worked. He's brilliant. It's clear that he has so much passion for this character, and that is of course also present within the special edition as well, as we get to see him rather excellently taking on the role of Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier, as well as the Roger Delgado Master, which that is of course only available on the limited edition collector's version, which I hope to review separately at some point in the future. Then finally we do of course have Geoffrey Beevers as the Crispy Master, and I can of course call him the Crispy Master because even Missy refers to him as Crispy throughout this release, and to be honest we go on a little bit of an adventure with the Geoffrey Beevers Master, which wasn't quite what I was expecting. He's kind of becomes a little bit nice, and he has a moment where you feel sorry for him. I think that the Geoffrey Beevers incarnation is very, very scary because he is a walking corpse, and because of that he's very vulnerable. He's on his basically last few straws of life, but because of that he is so desperate for survival. I feel like all the other incarnations really overlook him. He's kind of like the bullied incarnation in a way. We've seen throughout multiple different releases in the past, in particular the likes of And You Will Obey Me, where we have a rather vulnerable version of this Master, and he uses that vulnerability, when in reality, yes, he is weak, however, he's not vulnerable, he's cunning again, he is devious, and he will get what he wants, and we don't see that throughout this release. I'm not going to say what happens, but we see him doing something, or at least falling for something, which I was shocked to see, but it worked quite well, especially when some of the other Masters started to interact with that plot point throughout this episode. I'm purposely being very vague because I want you to see it for yourselves or listen to it. But yes, now we move on to the narrative itself. I'm aware that I've gone through all the different incarnations without talking about the actual story. However, in the case of this episode, the characters are the story, and as a result, that is why we've took so long to discuss them all, because the narrative itself is one that I'm going to try and keep as vague as possible, because it's an anniversary special. It's full of twists and turns and plot points and little references to other eras of the show. It's a lot of fun, and because of that I'm not going to spoil it, but I am going to say a few of the things that I liked, some of the parts that I disliked. As I mentioned earlier, as it's 3 hours long, it actually supports itself considerably well. It's not overly complex. In fact, I would go as far to say that this is an easy listen, which is probably a first. I don't think I've ever encountered a Big Finish story that is 3 hours long that I would recommend to a new listener, but I do actually recommend this one to a new listener because, to be quite honest, I think it is rather easy to follow. One of the probably most difficult parts of this story is at points it can get a little bit difficult to differentiate between some of the masters. A number of people have been saying online that a lot of the incarnations of the master do sound very similar, and yes, at points you do start to think, hang on, what does Derek Jacoby sound like again? Is this one Beavers? Is this one Jacoby? I did fall victim to that myself. I did get a little bit confused at points. However, kind of after a while you realise, due to the context of the scene that you are kind of within, and as long as you staple a certain incarnation to a certain location within the story, you're kind of fine. For example, you know that the Beavers master is kind of living in isolation. You know that the Jacoby master is kind of in a decaying cityscape with John Sim in a car, which is as good as it sounds. Meanwhile, Missy is going around the universe of Katie Manning as Joe Grant, because Joe Grant is the most kindest companion in the world, and why on earth wouldn't you put the kindest companion in the world alongside some of the most evilest creatures that Doctor Who has ever produced? It simply makes sense. I think that Joe Grant does a very good job of basically coping with Missy and trying to dig deep, because she believes that everybody has positivity within them, even the Master and even Missy. And what I like as well is we get her trying to reference to Delgado and basically see the Delgado master within Missy and questioning that goodness within her. But also at the same time, Missy wants to figure out why the Doctor always travels with a human, and she kind of realises that throughout this episode. And perhaps, I suppose, at least I interpreted as a listener, that it could quite possibly tie into the 12th Doctor Series 10 arc of the goodness theme within Missy's personality, which again, I quite liked. Without spoiling too much, basically the plot of this story is that the Master has won, and he has won the entirety of the universe because he's taken over this planet, and basically the world and everything beyond it is being destroyed due to this wave of energy that is being thrown around the universe and is destroying absolutely everything within its path. And basically we see the different incarnations of the Master kind of plonked between timelines on this planet, before the explosion, after the explosion, the refugees leaving the planet after the explosion as well, and long before. And we have a really nice theme, and it builds together throughout this story, and the conclusion is satisfying because it makes complete sense. I think that a few people would call it a little bit of a cop-out because it's not a big grand ending, I suppose. It's not all guns blazing, it's not the Doctor coming in, which is what I was really dreading. I was dreading these incarnations of the Master to just be defeated by Tom Baker strutting in and then buzzing his sonic screwdriver and then it all being fine. I like the fact that this story is solved. The problem in this story is solved, and the only characters within this episode are the Master. So yes, take from that what you will. It's deep to celebrate the personality of the Master and to celebrate the variation as well between these different incarnations. I think for those of you that are wanting something big and grand with the Master interacting with many different people, many different alien races, defeating the Daleks and Cybermen and all of that, this is not a story like that. If anything, it's the Day of the Doctor, but from the Master's perspective, because yes, the Day of the Doctor was focused around the Doctor. It was focused around these incarnations coming together and defeating a problem. However, this story kind of takes out the defeating the problem and kind of replaces defeating with causing, and them needing to figure out what they're going to do next. And I want to address that fact of it not having Daleks and Cybermen and all guns blazing invasions in it. It does have a few references to that here and there, because I'm aware that if you go into this story, probably with the hopes of that, you are going to be underwhelmed, because this episode is very character driven, because the entirety of the cast is basically the Master. So naturally, if you don't like the Master, or if you don't like a bulk of the incarnations of the Master, then this release is not going to be for you. Not not one of those box sets that is reliant on external knowledge from other series. You don't have any references that are integral from other episodes of Elective Dark Eyes or anything like that. This is 100% standalone, which is most definitely the way that it should be. Yes, overall for Masterful, it was alright. I actually found it really fun. I really enjoyed basically the showcase of the strengths of the Master. I think it works very, very well. There is of course two different versions to purchase on the Big Finish website, as I did mention earlier. Of course, Masterful, the standard version, only features the 3-hour story. It doesn't feature the added stuff on top. That will be available forever on the Big Finish website. But that said, if you are watching this as soon as it is uploaded, I recommend buying the limited edition version because it is very nearly sold out. Once it is sold out, it is sold out for good, and you can of course still buy the download, but that means spending money on something that you're not going to get physically, and the product is really lovely, and on top of that you get the short trips and the extra adventure. So to be honest, if you've got the cash, I recommend forking out a bit more to get that special release. Masterful as a story, it's a lot of fun, it's got a lot of great moments, it is definitely very well written. I think that James Goss does a good job of balancing the different incarnations and letting them do different things without the episode overall being too complex to the point where it alienates a listener. In fact, I recommend this release to new listeners and experienced listeners, which is something that I definitely didn't expect that I would be saying when going into this story yesterday, having not listened to it. Yes, it is one of those releases I most certainly recommend, and I hope that if you do purchase it, I hope you enjoy it, because I certainly did. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions for brand new Doctor Who content each and every week, as well as regular Big Finish audio drama reviews. So of course on that note, I shall see you all next time. Bye for now. Insert evil laugh here to end, because yes, Masterful contained a lot of evil laughs, as you would expect.